Hey guys, it's Simon. Um, so this is gonna be a lengthy video. So if you don't want to watch it, you don't have to. But this is about a little bit more about me and why I'm in the way I am today. When I started off, I had anger issues, and for the last. This was back in like 2010, 2013, and 14, and 15. Well, they've gotten worse. They got worse, a lot worse, to a point where I was hitting other people, my parent, my mom, and then my grandparents too. And they just slowly kept getting worse and worse and worse, to the point where they couldn't handle me anymore. Well, then they went to, and my mom called up a behavioral health place. And this behavioral health place, did a bunch of CAT scans, like literally scanned my whole body, make sure there's nothing wrong with my brain, nothing wrong anywhere else. And then they ended up sending me to a doctor at Quincy Medical Group, or Quincy, at the hospital right there, and it was behavioral health, and her name is Dr. Cummings. And she's a nice doctor. I suggest, if you have problems, to go to her. That's the doctor I would suggest to you. Anyways, she gave me medicine, and that helped, but I still had the anger issues. Well, now I've had the medicine for a long time, and I can control them a little bit better, but it helps having a clean room, having clean space to go to, listening to music, and just getting in this room and going off by myself and getting away from people. Well, in 2016, while trying to control these anger issues, Grandpa had totally gotten worse. And through Grandpa getting worse, he had gotten where he could drive places, but he couldn't go by himself because he wouldn't remember how to get home. Well, so I would have to go a lot of places with him, and these would be good times, the few good times that I had. But there was a day, and he lost his license because he's got so many tickets. And there was a day, and he was just sitting out there in the car, and Grandma brought him home from the gas station because he'd go up to the gas station every day, whether he could drive or not. Grandma would take him up there, and he'd drink coffee and just sit there and listen to the people coming in and out. And there's a bunch of men that went up there and did that. Well, that day, Grandpa wanted to stay out there in the car. I think he knew there was something more wrong with him. And he went around, and all of a sudden, with Grandma, I was sick at the time. All of a sudden, Grandma heard, "Help! Help! Help!" Well, outside, Grandpa's behind the shed. Who knows how he got there? And he was on the ground. Well, she called her son, which is my uncle, the youngest boy, and he and his son, my cousin Avery, came up and helped Grandpa up because I couldn't do it at the time, which hurt me more than most people realize. Well, they got him up and into the house, and I knew something else was wrong with him. So they ended up calling BJ. Danny was the oldest boy. BJ's the youngest, okay? BJ, the youngest boy. And he came, and he lives far away, all the way in another town, 2 or 3, 4 towns away. And it takes usually an hour to get here from him. Nilo came here in 30 minutes. He's going way over his speed limit, we know that, but they got Grandpa back into the car and took him to Springfield. That's the place that Jacksonville told him that would be the best to go. So at Memorial, he went in, and I don't know what happened, but anyways, they ended up finding out after a couple of days that he had a hole in his colon. So he did, and he agreed to go to the colon surgery for Grandma's sake, I think. I think he knew that he wasn't going to be here that much longer. Well, after the colon surgery, they had him a big hole right here. And he went into the burn unit because that would be the best place right now that wasn't full. The emergency burn unit that could take the best care of him. Well, I got to go up and see him, but Mom had been worse, had gotten worse through the process of Grandpa getting worse. Well, that's gonna be another part to this story. Well, anyways, she never got to go up to see Grandpa. And anyways, Grandpa ended up in 2016, June, July, I don't know, somewhere around there. We got a call early in the morning. It was Grandma, and she said, "Hey, I have something to tell you." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Grandpa has passed away." And yeah. So that happened, and that was really the only man figure I had in my life at the time. So yeah, so she came home, and we got through that time together. Well, Mom ended up getting to go to the funeral. She got to go to the funeral. Well, then exactly 1 year afterwards, Mom got real bad. She had pains in her stomach/side. Well, she went to the hospital. I finally got to go to the hospital by telling her I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't even go to school if she wouldn't have went to the hospital that night. What I told her. And she got really sick. They found out that she had something in her she had to get her gallbladder taken out the first thing. And she was doing better, a little bit better. She went to the nursing home. And this nursing home, she had a sore in her bottom, and this nursing home never took her for a sore. So she came back, ended up signing herself out and come back home. Well, then she started getting way worse, and she went to the hospital again. Like, her doctor suggested her going to the hospital again. And anyways, after going to the hospital again, they found out that she had a tumor. They thought it was cancer. Well, it wasn't ended up being cancer. They took her to Memorial Hospital, and it wasn't cancer. It was just a stone. So they put in stents in her, so they could drain them. And through this time, she was doing really good. She had a sore in the back of her leg that exploded too. Like, it was a blood blister, and it went poof, and in the hospital she exploded. Well, she went into the ICU, and for 4 days she was in the ICU, and her heartbeat kept getting faster and faster and faster. It was overworking her heart. And it got to the point where they would tell us every time we go home, they tell us that she probably wasn't gonna make it. I'd come home and I'd be like, "God, why me? Why am I, Mom?" Can't you just let her live? And she went, and she wasn't gonna live that next day. They knew it for sure. If her heartbeat hadn't slowed down, they knew that she wasn't gonna live that next day. Well, I put out on Messenger for everybody on my Messenger, whether Christian or not, to pray for my mom. I had everybody send me text back. All my Messenger people, like over 100 people at the time, and they all sent me messages back that they was gonna pray. And the next day, we went there, and she wasn't in the ICU. I was like, "Oh no, she had passed away." Well, one of the nurses came, and they're like, "Hey, Rose, how are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, not very good. We didn't see Mom in here. Is she okay?" And they said, "Oh, about that, she got so better like through the night, so much better that they got to move her. So she got moved." Big precision camera, okay. She got moved And everything turned around for the better. Well, through this whole time, I was living with Grandma. And Grandma's 82 now. At the time, she was 81. And Grandma has her ways. It's gonna be Grandma's ways or else. Grandma, yeah, she let me do a little bit more stuff than most parents would do. Well, Mom ended up going into nursing home. And to Timber Point, where she's at now. Where I can't go see her, which is pissing me off. But, Grandma and me, we get into arguments all the time. I didn't want to live here. I wanted my mom. I wanted to live for my mom. But there's nothing I could do about that. My anger issues started getting worse again. Not to the point where I was hitting anybody, just to the point where I was depressed all the time. And yeah, so at school, my kids would just say the slightest thing and I get pissed off. Well, one of the kids, they ended up believing what I said. And we're not gonna get what I said because I'm not gonna say it again. But what I said, yeah. And so anyways, they ended up telling on me and the cops came. And I ended up having to go to a mental hospital for a night or two, and after that night, I just knew I was going to change my life, whether it be for the better or for the worst, hopefully for the better. So I got my ears pierced. That was my first change. And I went through this really depressing time where I wore black fingernail polish. That's where I got into wearing my fingernail polish. And a bunch of other kids at school had already been wearing black fingernail polish, like boys, of course. And anyway, so I went into that group, and I didn't really find my way through that group. And so at the last couple of months of this year, Mom had been gotten better and better and better, so I pierced her ears from her too. And she had got all her sore, that was like her reward. Like, her sore had healed up on the back of her leg, she got way better. Well, through all this time, I was trying to find me somebody. A girl. Or a boy. Yeah, I'm bi. So, I was trying to find me, I went through that too. That would be another story. If you want that story, you can comment down below and I'll tell you what brought me to that, that thing, yeah. So, like, that'll be my coming out story to you guys. Lucky, because I never did that to my parents. Okay, well, anyways, I was looking for me a girl. And I went through hundreds and hundreds of girls, it felt like. And my friend finally set me up with this girl named Bianca. And she is the sweetest girl, the nicest girl, the prettiest girl, the most beautiful girl I've ever met. And I feel like I just have ruined everything between us. She went through a time, I felt like she was going through a time in her life where she was really down in the dumps, and I ended up telling her parents, which was good, I guess. I mean, she's getting help now, so it was good, I guess. Yeah. And so, anyways, yeah. And I think I've ruined everything between us, and it took me forever to find her. But I'd rather have her here on the world so everybody else can enjoy her, even if that means ruining our relationship. I even wrote a letter to her. Just a minute, and I'll find it on here. And I'll read you the letter I wrote to her. So if she is watching this, she can, like, see my feelings that I had at the time, right after I told her dad and whatever, and her mom called me, and yeah, everything happened. Just a minute. I just could take a bit. Okay, why I'm waiting, if you could subscribe and like the video, that would be great. Google Docs. My computer's slow. Sorry. Here's Google Docs. Okay, I wrote a whole letter. I even wrote this out so I could have read it if I wanted to, but I didn't have it finished. So I was just like, I'm just gonna speak from my heart and tell you guys everything. Like a little backstory. Okay, I wrote it in a letter. Through all this, I've met a guy named James Charles. A couple years ago, I met him. Started watching his YouTube videos. You guys may know him, and he's just so inspiring. Okay, here it's loaded. Okay, it says, "Dear Bianca, I know that at the time you're reading this, you have moved on and possibly found somebody new. The day I texted your dad, I didn't know if the world would have another beautiful person taken from it. As the song goes, if you love her, let her go. So I am letting you free, if you want to be. Just know, I will always love you, if that means not having a relationship anymore. Simon." So, yep, that's been my life for the past 4 or 5 years. And I've done through counseling, and I'm still doing counseling to try to figure out my next steps and stuff, but yeah. So, bye.